So the baby goats are getting bigger. It's about time we train them on the electric fence, because when we let the mamas in to feed them, the babies push through the gate. Oh, come on. Anyway, they push through the gate. So we put up the electric fence. Now, I can get down there and try to shuffle them back in there, which they tend to do if I'm careful. But I'm Justin here with Prosperity Homestead. So these baby goats are getting bigger. The corral has some fine wire in it. But what's happening is these goats want to get out and explore. They want to get out and they want to eat stuff. They want to explore. And so by getting out of this space, they're putting themselves at risk. And plus, I got to spend a whole bunch of time chasing them around, try to catch them. Now, we don't chase them because they like to play. We usually can get them back in 15, 20 minutes. But that adds a lot of time to the chores. So what we want to do is start training the goats on the fence. So we have their corral area, their nursery area. And again, this is not the ideal setup. We're going to formalize it. But what happens is when they get out of this area, they still have a hard fence on the outside, but we got our 4-strand. Now it's down to 3 right there so I can step over it. But basically the 4-strand tries to keep them in this area. Now they're still gonna touch it and be shocked, or touch it and get outside because they ran through. Ideally, it is best to have the hard fence behind it. But we also wanna make the most of our corral space. So the big problem we're solving here is that the baby goats are getting outside the fence like this. The baby goats are pushing through the gate because they're not so baby anymore. Mamas need to be with the baby goats during the day so that they can milk. We actually rest the mamas sometimes overnight, but most of the time the mamas can get away from the baby goats for a couple hours and then they go back in. Baby goats are at a point where they're eating solid food and they're about to wean, but we don't wean them and take them away unless the goat goes to a new home. So we do have 2 bucks in here that are up for discussion. These 2 bucks need to, they're at a decision point where we either need to castrate them and make them wethers, or they need to go off to be breeders for somebody else. Their father actually has a good quality parents, and you can see how the mamas have bagged out. Now, again, this works best if the corral has solid backs on it. And I'm not going to walk around too much because I don't want the baby goats to get all freaked out and get stuck somewhere. But this works best in training the goats to an electric fence if we have the some sort of backing on it. Now, why 4-strand? Why not 3-strand? Why not 2-strand? Well, 4-strand is what they're going to end up with in the woods. And that's primarily because that's what these stakes have on it. We have trained them on 2 strands. And why not net fence? Well, in this case, if they shock on a net fence, they are going to get stuck in the net fence. So what we're actually training the goats is that these wires are hot and they don't want to touch them. But if they go inside that corral, there's no wires. They're pretty safe. So we're behaviorally modifying or conditioning them to stay in the nursery corral. So now this time, instead of having 6 baby goats to chase around, I have just 1, and the other ones are going to go back in the corral here in a second. Now they're going to try to run from me. I'm not necessarily going to try to catch them all, but I want the 3 mamas in the corral. And then these other goats will be easier to grab. A lot of times you don't have to grab them. You can just reach out and pet their heads and pet their bottoms. But again, if I don't train these goats on this fence, they're going to wander all around. They're going to be difficult to catch. They're going to have not to be protected at night. Right? Because we got coyotes, we got bear, we got other stuff. Oh, they're all getting hay today. Look at Mama's got got a want for some hay. We've had a lot of rain here lately, by the way, and I've told you in other videos we keep 4 to 8% of their body weight in hay available, and at any given time. But when it rains, they don't want to eat that hay, and they'd rather do something else. So what I'm going to start doing in the rain is give them less hay. Let me get this other mama in here. Give them less hay at a time, but more frequently. Come on, girl. She says, I was in there all night. I was in there all night. I want a break from the babies. What? You want a break? Because you like to stand up and buck. Anyway, I'll do that when I'm not on the camera. Last point. Come on, girl. The last point is, if I don't train them on a fence, the big goats will do something that they don't typically do until they see the baby goats do it. But that is not a very good gait. And so what ended up happening is actually the big goats pushed through. So I had her, and I had her, which I got to be careful not to touch the fence. I had these two out and about. Now, they don't go very far. They were just over here grazing because, again, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. But, again, something could happen to them. If they get out there, I have to lure them back with hay. I need to lure them back with the feed bucket. Again, that's why that behavioral conditioning is so important. And then it's just extra time, extra work that's not, that could be preventable. So again, to train these baby goats that are only like 4 or 5 weeks old, a couple of them are a little bit older than that, but to train these baby goats, we have fence up on half the corral area. That fence is low enough that if they try to squeeze under it or jump over it, now we don't want this to happen. Okay, so I'll have to turn the fence off and readjust the fence after the baby goats are in. But we don't want them to get between the fences and the electric in the ground. So I'll fix this here shortly. But my point is, if I don't introduce them to the fence, they're at greater risk of getting hurt in the future. I want my goats inside, not outside. Any fence that won't hold water won't hold goats. So I've got to use electricity, and I've got to condition them to be interested in staying in the fence. Like, for example, their mamas are in the fence and they can get unlimited milk. And then finally, the fence design's got to be appropriate for the size of the goat, because 2 strands of, inside this corral, 2 strands of electric will keep the big ones in. But the little ones can jump high enough to get over even that little 3 section. So one of the things that we do with for clients is we design corral, because not everybody's got a lot of land. So we design corral systems, we design goat areas. It's all going to be intensive growing and rotation, but we design these for clients. We put this fence up in the dark. I don't know if you can tell, but it was getting dark out and we were tired of chasing goats. So we put this fence up in the dark. I'm also going to come through here and seed. So you can see down on the bottom, that beautiful grass growing where we've got that section going through. I'm going to go through here with a hoe and knock up all this, I think it's pigweed, all this weed that we don't want. Keep plants we do want. I'll clean up all of this wood out here. I will probably have to pick that milking stall up and put it inside here so we can get the mamas milked. Because if you don't milk the mamas, they won't produce a lot of milk. And we'd like to have that milk. So we're putting up a shelter to have, so they can have some shade. And then we're going to have the milking stall under the shelter. And what else, girl? What else are we talking about? Anyway, eventually, really soon, we're going to have the babies out in that corral in the end. So I do need to get electric up here and shave the, and try to use the same charger for both. So this whole corral eventually have power on it. But we only let them in sections at a time. We seed after they've been in. We want to grow as much biomass as possible. We want to convert as much of the wood and materials that were on the ground into just carbonous material. Either it's chipped or it's turned into charcoal. And then all that together, plus their waste that they just keep making, we end up having growing areas. So it's not a dry It's not a feed lot. It is a corral system that eventually expands into the woods once we get the fence going over there. There's all kinds of projects you'll never get done, or you'll take a long time to get done, especially when you're doing other work as well. So again, this is an urban farm. There are houses pretty nearby. This is not my only thing that I do. I have the newsletters, I have the consulting, I have all the other work going on. And I just want to show you that with off-grid goats, the system that we've put together, which has been informed by many, many other people's experiences as well as my own. We had goats growing up. This is going to get you started, lowest cost possible, highest quality for the animals, and ultimately get you through all the different sections. Because like once they're trained on this fence, it doesn't matter if there's another fence behind it. Plus they'll be bigger, so that second wire up is about chest level for the full-size goats. That first wire up is about chest level for the baby goats. And ultimately, we keep it clean, and these goats will be much safer and better off for it in the long run. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. This has been the Prosperity Homestead podcast. We have an audio version of the podcast as well. We have show notes at the website, www.prosperityhomestead.org. If you ask questions in the comments below, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from you. And again, we're going to graduate them from the multi-strand to the portable field fence, which you can see the big goats down there are respecting quite well, so that they can go out in the woods. So in the woods, they're going to meet this 4-strand, or they're going to meet the mesh fence, and we need them to be familiar with it. So why not imprint early? So I don't need to chase these goats down and catch them necessarily, but once the big goats are in the nursing corral, I'll get everybody fed. I'll make these goats, I'll pick these goats up, put them in there, or they'll see that food coming and they'll be like, I want to get some of that, and so they'll go in there on their own. But either way, I don't have to chase them down to the other corral. I don't have to risk them going over there and getting near the goat that we're trying to get culled. The one that's in quarantine. It came that way, by the way, and I had taken too long to take care of it. He's way better than he was before, but he still needs to go. He's 6-7 years old. They won't accidentally get over to the buck. Folks, there's so much stuff we can show you, but getting out there and doing it is the best thing. If I can encourage you to get started, there's a bunch of those little buzzy things. If I can encourage you to get started, that's the greatest thing. If you have questions, you need help along the way, we have coaching, we have other things available. But again, you have to get started. In another video, I'm going to cover some of the farm incomes, because you guys know I got this report. It's how to make money on your small farmer homestead, and people are using it. That's why I'm pretty busy. But ultimately, we've got a couple videos coming out about some of the pallet services and the different things that we've put together here. But again, there's 100 and some ways. So again, if you can get your goats up and running quick, I'm looking at 6 goats. I'll find it. Anyway, if you can get your small farmer homestead up and running quick, you're more likely to be able to enjoy stuff like that. Now, did you see that? Because that little low strain is down, you just walked on through. Anyway, time to clean stuff up. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, www.prosperityhomestead.org.